A couple of wrist spinners of both sides.
Look, I don't think you can expect that this pitch is going to spin like it did in Sharjah, and even yesterday when Cordet bowled, it didn't spin a huge amount. So I think whenever you've got wrist spinners like that, it doesn't really matter about the surface as much. I guess the beauty of our side is we've got 5 spinners. We've got Mohammad Nawaz, who's the best spin bowler in the world at the moment, and he's been ranked that way over the last 6 months since he come back in the side. And obviously we've had Abrar and Sufyan do as well as he has. Simon Oud's now in the top 10 all-rounders in the world. So obviously that comes on the back of his improved performance with the ball. And Salman Ali is hardly bowled, and he's obviously the test spinner for Pakistan. So we've got a lot of spin bowling options if we think conditions suit that. If we don't, we've got 5 seamers as well who allow us to either go for airspeed or change of pace or reverse swing depending on what we think the surface will provide.
Mike, just 2 parts. One is, are you confident about the batting? Because and I'm talking about obviously the Oman game and the India game. The way we saw, there was a lot of discussion about that. Should Mohammad Haris be there or not in the lower order? And then the way inconsistency being shown by Saidzada and Sam, and then you have someone like Hassan Nawaz who's coming up with a good performance in the past, but now again not doing well in the tri series, except that one game. So are you confident with the batting? And the second thing is, there is a school of thought which is saying that Pakistani batters, most of them, are not reading it from the hand. Are you concerned about that? Apart from the captain Salman Ali Aga and Mohammad Nawaz. Apart from that, they are not able to pick up with the hand, from the hand of the spinners.
Look, I'll answer your first question. I really don't know where that's come from and who would make that assessment. We've played against Rashid, Noor. We've played against probably the best wrist spin attack in the world on a surface that has spun square, and we managed to score 70 more than our opposition. So I'm not quite sure where that's come from. The other part, look, you're right. Like we are, it's very much a developing batting lineup, and there's a number of players who, on their day, can win you the game, but they don't have as many good days as you like at the moment. I think that's very fair. The thing for us, though, is we're more interested, I guess, the sum of the parts as a batting group, and every game in Sharjah by bar 1, we were probably 20 above par. So even though there were a number of players that didn't do well on particular occasions, I'm more interested in what we end up with and how we get there. And even the final, like 120 was plenty on that pitch, and we got 140. And I guess anyone, cricket people who were watching that game would have been well aware of that as the ball was stopping and spinning. So the fact we scrapped 140. You're never going to play with fluency on those types of surfaces. We also got 200, we got 180, and we got 150 chasing, which is probably our poorest performance. Outside of that, as a batting unit, we've got the job done. Would we like every one of them to be in form at the same time? Of course, we would. And I guess the chance playing out here, and it certainly looks like it's going to be a pretty good pitch, is for a few of those guys to find some form and play an innings that we know they can play.
Hi, you are associated with Pakistan team since the last few months. So, what did you learn from the Pakistani boys and you do Punjabi, Pashto language?
Look, I've been fortunate enough to understand, not Pashto, but certainly quite a lot of Urdu. I'm not going to reel off a few statements right now, but I do understand a lot of Urdu. That's probably fortunate for me, having spent a bit of time in this part of the world. As for speaking Urdu, it's limited, but I certainly, you can't have players talking behind your back without you knowing what they're saying, so I'm certainly aware of all of those things.
Hi, Mike. You publicly spoke about deficiencies in game of Mohammad and
You see the mic close.
So, nowadays coaches don't really talk publicly about the weakness of players. So, where did you draw that courage from, and why you so direct about it?
Sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
Yeah, I'm saying you were very direct about, telling publicly where Babar and Rizwan were not really up to the mark. And you said it in the press conference, about Babar's strike rate and something similar about Rizwan. So, I mean, is it your school of thought, or how do you, manage to do that publicly?
I think being honest about your assessment of players, I think, is pretty important. And I think also coming from a place where you have no agenda is also very important. I think if you're able to come in as someone who can look at things objectively, I think that's important. I certainly haven't talked about anyone's frailties. What I've alluded to is obviously the way the modern game's played and the strike rate required in the power play is quite different than what it's probably needed in the past, especially in good conditions. And I think that all players ask for as coaches or selectors or whatever to be honest with them and say, hey, these are the things that we'd love you to work on, and if you do that, then there's always a way back into any team. And I think that's the responsibility you've got. You can't, just because you like a player or you have a relationship with a player, doesn't mean you can't be honest. And I think that's all you ask, is that if players want to improve and want to contribute to the team, then you have a pretty clear role discrepancy for that, or role definition, and then it's up to players to work on those things. And that's what I ask of anybody in any team that we work on. Current players and also players that are trying to fight their way back into the team.
Mike, during the tri series, we saw Pakistani batters hit 44 sixes but lost 37 wickets. Are both these factors getting good enough for progress of this team?
As I said, I'm more interested in the sum of the parts. So what does the team actually achieve that particular day, and is it good enough? Because there are some times where 150 is good enough, there are one time where 190 might not be. So you've got to, as a batting unit, you've got to decide what's required to win the game, and can we get above that? That's the only thing that matters. It's not about average strike rate, whatever. It's what does the team need to help win that game of cricket? And that's certainly the thing that, as a bowling unit, we do the same thing. How can we bowl well enough to keep the opposition below par? And if we're, as a batting unit, able to get above par, then obviously there's a difference between the two, and that's pretty much what we work on. So, fours and sixes, we don't necessarily look at that. The reality is, I'd far rather be at 165 for 9 than 150 for 2 at the end of 20 overs, because I know what wins the game. So the only thing that matters at the end is what's your score, what's your team score. It doesn't matter about anything other than that. It's anything that matters.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.